Welcome to the Every Brain Matters podcast. I'm Aubrey Adams, director of Every Brain Matters, and a former Colorado mom and host mom for youth in recovery. Today, we talk to my friends, Sergio and Gladys, about how their family, their son, experienced addiction to cannabis and a condition that's not well understood called CHS, Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Syndrome. Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Syndrome is a condition in which a person experiences extreme nausea, cyclic vomiting, and severe abdominal pain after using marijuana. Symptoms can be mild or severe and can occur for a few minutes or for years. Symptoms might be relieved by hot baths or showers, which is called abdominal washing. And some experts, like Dr. Ronit Lev, have coined the term scromiting because sometimes the vomiting is so severe, the person is screaming while they're vomiting. And if marijuana is not stopped, CHS can be fatal. Prolonged vomiting, lack of eating can lead to dehydration, electrolyte problems, muscle spasms or weaknesses, seizures, heart arrhythmia, shock, and in some cases, brain swelling. CHS is when a person consumes so much marijuana, their bodies are at toxic levels. It's like a poisoning. It's when the chemicals or the cannabinoids in the marijuana plant, including CBD or THC, have overloaded the endocannabinoid system of the human body. Some people think weed or marijuana cures nausea, and that has caused it. While there are FDA THC medicines in low doses that can certainly help with nausea, there is a much more insidious adverse reaction many marijuana users are experiencing, which can leave them begging for relief or even kill them. And the only cure is to stop marijuana use. I'm here today with Sergio and Gladys Longoria, and they are going to share their family's experience with addiction and CHS, or Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Syndrome. Welcome. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for raising awareness with the Every Brain Matters community about CHS.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Can you describe what your family life was like prior to when your son became addicted to marijuana?
Normal life, I guess. It's
Well, prior to the drug addiction that our son was living, he is a twin child. He has a twin sister. He is 22 years old right now. Will be 22 in the next few months. And prior to that, we have 4 children total, ranging in the age of 14, 10, and of course Junior being 21, and his twin sister of 21 years, of course. And before addiction,
he was into sports. He was a straight A student. He was always, every school, every teacher that he had always had positive things to say about him. They were always praising at how smart he was. He could go from playing football, basketball. He played every sport, and he was good at it.
Sports was his life, especially basketball.
He was a normal teenage kid,
That didn't clean his room.
Didn't clean his room, but for the most part, respectful of, and I mean, even with addiction, he still was respectful to everybody else but us.
Yeah, but we were before all that. It was pretty much all, you know, happy days as a family. Very tight knit family. They're younger. The kids are younger, so you know they most part follow directions and help you around the house and you know, as kids they have dream jobs or dream sports.
He was he wanted to be a basketball player. He had a dream to go and be signed on by a college. He wanted to go to college. He wanted to do everything, and he had ambitions.
So when did he start using drugs that you knew of? Do you know how old he was at that time?
Late 15, early 16. It was first year in high school. He was a sophomore in high school, about to turn 16. That's when it all started.
And when you say when it all started, did you start to see behavior changes?
Behavior changes.
Immediately.
He Junior wouldn't lie to us about, I mean, he wouldn't lie, and we started seeing patterns of lying.
Inactive.
Extreme
inactive.
Stopped playing football all of a sudden, and he's like, I don't want to play football anymore. Okay. So we thought, okay, well, he doesn't want to do football. And then skipping school. And then he never lost the love of basketball. But that was, I think, the only thing that he didn't lose.
Did he have a change of friends too? Was he hanging around different friends?
Yes, there was friends, his so-called friends that
he changed his friends. He stopped talking to his sports buddies and
the local neighbors,
yeah,
the kids
and
around
then
the block.
We didn't see like his so-called friends. We never like got to see him. They were always, he was like, oh no, they're from school. They don't live around here, but they were, from what we know, older than him. And the lying was unbelievable. And then shortly after that, it was the running away.
Do you think he was running away because you guys were implementing rules on him that he didn't want to follow?
Yeah.
And when did you see him start getting physically sick? Because that's kind of how we cross paths and we started connecting. Sergio Jr. was sick to his stomach a lot, right?
That came, what, about 2-3 years later?
I want to say 3.
I want to say about 2.5, 3 years later.
Okay.
It was right before COVID.
Yeah.
Right before COVID?
Yeah, because that's when the first year of COVID.
It was,
I took him 15, 20 times to the hospital, to the ER during the first year of COVID.
the first time he got sick was late in 2019.
But COVID was 2020.
Yeah. So late in 2019 was the first time he got sick.
We didn't know what it was.
And you came to the hospital, we talked, and that was the first time we ever knew about CHS.
Well, in the beginning, like in 2019, when your son started getting sick and you were taking him to the hospital, what did you think was going on with him? Did you think drugs were causing this, or did you think he had a stomach bug, or what was going through your minds?
My thought that he was doing all kinds of drugs. We didn't know what he was at that time.
What he was
intaking. We had no idea. And once he got sick, he started getting sick very regular, weekly, bi-weekly. As soon as it caught up to him where he would eat less, and
it was eating less, sleeping less, anxiety would kick in. And then a few days later, it was the constant vomiting. I mean, I think in 2020, he had about 20 episodes.
15 to 20 times I took him to the ER. And I was so upset because, you know, that everybody was scared of COVID.
And no, I mean, at that time in 2020, it was like at the peak of COVID, nobody could be in there with him. But then he didn't want us to be away from him. He wanted us to be there. He got whenever he was going, we would go through those episodes, he would get very emotional and attached to Sergio, especially after the first 3 or 4 times in 2020, he went to rehab for the second time.
Let's back up. When you guys were taking him to the ER those 15, 20 times during COVID, what were you guys thinking? Like, what were you feeling? Scared, angry, or what were you thinking was causing all of this?
As far as for me, it was more of an upset, a disappointment, not understanding what addiction was. Kind of how we all at one time have said the phrase, like, they didn't teach us this in school, you know. There's not a lot of information as there should be on drug addiction. You know, it feels like it's put away in the closet, and not a lot of people know about it, or much less understand it. And that's what happened to me.
And a lot of us don't want to talk about it.
I thought he was just spoiled. He just thought about himself. He had no respect for his house, for his family. After showing him what I do is hard work every day, every single day, hard work, dedication, provider, protector for the family. I just couldn't, I had a really difficult time coping. The mother would cry. The father usually doesn't cry. We get upset. We feel challenged. You know, I have chronic back issues, and he wouldn't help me cut the grass, you know, when he started with the addiction. And it was really hurtful, really deeply hurting to me. You know, my only son, and he couldn't help me cut the grass, take out the trash. You know, we all need some help. Everybody needs some kind of help. And physical help is much needed around a house for the keeping up with it. So I was really upset. I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't understand the purpose of Cornerstone at the beginning. I wasn't 100% because I thought it was spoiled kids, and they needed a spanking. You know, had a little bit of the old school in me. So it was tough going to the hospital more than 15 times. That's not including, you know, payments, you know, for the hospitals. Upset that he couldn't understand that there's people that are dying, and with COVID, the spreading of COVID. And here we are a week later back at the hospital again. It was so upsetting for me. I didn't have much compassion at that time, at the beginning, because I didn't understand what addiction was.
Yeah. Like you said, it's not in our parent handbook, right? We didn't have a family for our kids to grow up and become addicted, and we didn't. Yeah, that's a very good point, Sergio. Gladys, what was going through your mind when you were taking your son to the ER because he was vomiting so much and sick to his stomach?
I was scared. I was like, I'm gonna lose my son. I didn't want to be there. I wanted this to go away. I just was kind of like hoping, and I'm like, okay, if we're here and he's gonna listen and things are gonna change, and I was like, it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. It's a living nightmare.
Did you think your son was going to die?
Yeah, he was skin and bones.
And when you all took him to the ER, did they tell you what was causing this? His sickness?
Not at the beginning, but it only took 2 or 3 visits. Maybe 4 or 5.
Maybe 4 or 5, and then one doctor finally said it. Are you doing anything? Or are you smoking weed? And then you educated us also on CHS. It was like right at that time.
Yeah.
So the one doctor said he probably has CHS, Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Syndrome. And then were you just shocked that marijuana could cause a person like your son to, it was killing him, right?
Yeah, to kill him. Yeah. And this was 2019. They didn't have much information on that. It was what we were told by the doctor that, and this was 2019, that hospitals about 2 million cases a year for that.
He's like, but there's nothing. He's like, I don't know what to tell y'all. As parents, all he can do is help the symptoms, but it's not going to go away until he stops. And every time he's going to get sick, it's going to get worse every time. And it sure did. It got worse every single time. It was worse. Every single time it lasted longer and longer.
Did your son understand by consuming these products, not only was he developing the disease of addiction where his brain was craving the drugs or the dab pens or the THC, the marijuana was his main drug of choice, is the way I understood it. Did he understand that he was poisoning his body and he was at toxic levels to the point his body was shutting down?
I dare to say that he didn't care.
He didn't care.
Because I would talk to him when there was arguments, and it was in the moments that he was under the influence, and he would argue with me that he's never going to stop. He doesn't care. He loves smoking and he's never going to stop. That conversation was many times. And but he was always under the influence when he would talk like that.
Would he argue with it that it wasn't harmful and that you guys were wrong and the doctors were wrong, that it was harming him?
Yeah, there's they have information about, kids get information about, it's natural. Yeah. It comes from the earth. There was a time when that would be, that would roll off his tongue, that it was natural, and that some of his friends' parents do it and they're fine.
He would tell us, no, it's not that. I have acid reflux. And I was like, acid reflux? We would like continue to say, that's acid reflux doesn't do that. Yes, it is. And okay, so we'll make an appointment. We would make appointments, and he wouldn't go to the appointments, like to his primary, his gastro. He wouldn't go. He's like, no, what for? I'm fine. but yeah, it was he in his belief, that was not hurting him.
Yeah. And marijuana, or the cannabis plant, is a plant. But now the products available to everyone, including our youth, is what I call industrialized THC. And states have approved these products as medicinal. They have targeted youth and vulnerable populations by putting sugary flavors in the vapes. I always, when I talk to legislators and I talk to family members, I always try to explain that people would spit these vapes out. They would spit them out because they taste like chemicals. They have to put the sugary flavoring in them to deceive the user, to deceive the youth that are consuming them. We're literally allowing an industry to poison our children. And once their brain is hooked and they're addicted, they're going to argue with their most trusted family members out there that have their best interest at heart, their parents. And that's what's happened with this family. Now, I want to describe, like, our paths crossed with a recovery community called Cornerstone. And I saw your family struggling a lot. My heart was just breaking for your family because I saw that your son was in denial. He was really sick. And then he would come and go, and I would stay in touch with you all. And I remember one time, Gladys, you called me and said he was hospitalized. He was having a really bad episode of CHS. And I showed up there, and I brought other youth in the program, because sometimes that positive peer pressure would help a youth, because he's already shut you guys out. He's going to shut other adults out that are telling him that, you know, this is killing you. You need to figure out a way to quit. Here's some resources to help you quit. Do you think that some of those incidences where he did have connection with other youth was helpful to him?
I think everything in this process that he's been through is a piece of the puzzle. As yourself, as us, as God, other youths that's going through it. He had good days at Cornerstone. You know, they had good weekends, good days, and they did help him as much as he wanted.
Yeah.
You know, the help
Maybe you would
that,
allow it. Yeah.
yes, we can't speak anything bad about Cornerstone. It was has been a good program for our child. He just
He didn't want that at that time.
yeah, he wasn't ready. He's always felt like he's a little more mature for that, you know.
I think in the road that we've had, every piece that we went through had a role in the point where he's at right. He's at where he's at right now because every piece fit into place at the right time.
You make a great point, though. He just wasn't willing, till he got to the point where his pain level was so intense, and he realized, he started caring for himself. Your son was addicted to marijuana, THC, but he was also, he progressed to other drugs. And there was a Sunday that I got a phone call from Gladys, and your son had overdosed in your kitchen, and you found him laying on the floor of your kitchen. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was a Sunday morning, maybe somewhere around 7 a.m. The doorbell rang. Junior was out all night, all evening, all morning. And me being upset, Gladys, she went and opened the door for him, like good mothers do. And she got back in bed, and in a matter of minutes, our Shih Tzu started barking irregular. And they were in their kennels. and they started barking irregular, where we both immediately thought something was wrong. And they were not in the kitchen. They were at that time.
They were in the formal, and
yeah, in the formal.
It was not their, I want to go out, I want out of the kennel. It was,
Like
there's
they're
something
scared.
wrong.
It's like something, they're
There
scared.
was something wrong. And so Sergio's like, go check. And because he's like, I'm too upset if he's doing something stupid. I'm going to, I don't want to talk, I don't want to see him right now. So I get up and I see the refrigerator door open, and I'm thinking, oh my God, here he leaves everything open. I don't want to make any noise because I don't want Sergio to be upset. And I walk to close the refrigerator. He's just laying on the floor, and I'm like, everybody's asleep. I have the younger girls. I didn't want to wake them up, and
my mother, his grandmother, and grandmothers are always worried.
And my grandma was there. So, I'm trying to call Sergio, and Sergio runs and he sees this look in me, and he's just called 911. And
the sound of Gladys' voice when she called me, it was like a dramatic scene out of a movie when she called my name, and I was like, I jumped out of bed. That wasn't the right. Nothing was adding up, in that, instant. It didn't add up, and Gladys panicked.
I'm in the medical field, and I couldn't do CPR on my son. I froze. It's just, as a parent, it's the worst nightmare to see your kid just laying on a floor, like lifeless, like you're like this.
He wasn't breathing. He
was,
his
lips were blue, purple.
Yeah, his stomach was moving, the very bottom of his stomach, like 3 inches in diameter around his belly button, was the only thing that was barely moving. The chest, the face, no reaction. Gladys threw water on him. She got on the phone immediately when I told her to call 911, because I told her he needs CPR, and Gladys just froze. And she called 911. The girls started coming downstairs, but my mother stopped them and brought them back upstairs. You're thinking of the trauma.
His twin sister saw everything. I think till this day, she has some, and she has said she has resentment towards what he did to them. She always refers to, she doesn't refer us to herself. She refers to her as them. He's like, she said it before, resentment for what he did to us. And, she tells us, I'm not ready to talk about it, but I feel this way. And
I was pumping him while 911 was giving me instructions on the phone on what I needed to. I had no idea what I needed to do. I'm the father that takes the children to the doctor and don't know what to even say to the doctor sometimes, or what their allergies are. Their mother has been excellent for that, like in many cases. So I was pumping Junior. I was pumping his chest, and 911 was on the phone the whole time. And I started to cry because I couldn't believe it, but I knew it was real. I just couldn't put things together of what's next in the next few seconds. When you lose a loved one, and you lose a loved one in front of you, you know what happens. There's no turning back sometimes. You can't return the clock anymore. And I remember pumping him, and I remember the ambulances. I can hear them from far away. I heard it and heard that siren get as closest to all the way to the front yard.
Get there fast enough, and you're like, this isn't happening. You feel like, I want to wake up out of this nightmare. I want to wake up. Wake me up. I don't want to be here.
They gave him a total of
3 or 4 Narcans.
4 Narcans to stabilize him. He came out of the hospital that evening when we picked him up, because we couldn't be there because of COVID. And he had no idea what happened. He thought he hit his mom. He had no idea. He came out of there with the hospital gown out of the hospital.
He had no idea he overdosed.
He had no idea. He thought that he hit his mother. He didn't even he just couldn't. He was guessing at whatever he did. He was sorry, but he didn't know what he did. And did I hit mom? I'm sorry. He was, and that still wasn't the end of our journey.
And I just want to add to this day that it is horrible in the United States of America that your son overdoses, who needs 4 Narcan just to get him breathing. He goes to the hospital and they just discharge him.
Yeah, it was a discharge every time. There's only one thing they do is I'm not blaming them, but I'm not happy with the results either.
Yeah.
Should restrain kids. They need to do something to, like in other countries, for example, Mexico, where they come and get you. They come and get you and they take you to rehab.
They don't care how old you are.
They take you by force.
He's 18, or at the time he was
The politics,
17.
The politics can kill your
he can
child.
That's his life. We don't have a say so. And I'm like, but I'm paying for the insurance. Why?
It was the same story, get hydrated, a few hours and then push them out. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all they could do. I understand the situation.
Yeah. I mean, here's a medically unstable young person. I mean, how old was he when he overdosed? He was 18 already, or 17? 19?
19?
I think you said he was 19.
19. Yes, he was already 19. He had just turned 19.
Okay, so he's already been active in his addiction. His medical history shows he's in and out of the ER because he can't even keep food down. He's so addicted to marijuana. Now he's progressed to opioids. He overdoses. And there's still no plan in place to say, this young man, this is a cry for help. His disease has progressed to the point now he's consuming drugs that can stop himself that'll stop respiration, stop him from breathing. And he just is discharged home with no family support. I remember they wouldn't talk to you guys. And, I remember, I can't even imagine the way you all felt. I remember being very angry that day. That here in the United States of America, this is Texas, children are supposed to be number one, right? I mean, they're supposed to be our future.
Protected.
Yeah, protected. There's no protection. I mean, they allow, so the products that I want to just explain to the audience, the products that their son had access to have been federally legalized from the federal government through the 2018 Farm Bill, which legalized hemp, which legalized CBD, which allowed a predatory industry to take the CBD products and convert it to different variants of THC, like the Delta 8 THC, the Delta 10 THC. So Texas youth have no problem accessing these products. They're sold in the gas stations, they're sold in the smoke shops, They're very accessible at every high school, every junior high school throughout Texas. And our federal government and our state government is doing absolutely nothing about it. And that's what I have been trying to educate. These products are toxic. They are poisonous. They need to be banned. There's no, in Texas, Bluebell ice cream was pulled from the shelves, right? When a few people got harmed. I think it was like 11 people or something. Took them off the shelf. There's some kind of bacteria in them. Get them out of here. They're harming people. I think a few people died. We have your family. We have my friend Sonia, whose son is deceased from these products. It caused major psychosis in him, and he unfortunately ended his life. So that's what I want the audience to know. Like, this is a courageous family coming forward, sharing their experience, so you can learn and you can help make positive change. Now let's go to the next part. And after he comes home, he's overdosed. His disease is progressing. It's not getting better. It's getting worse. I remember him coming back to the recovery community for a little bit and getting better. And then he goes back into the cycle like, hey, maybe I'm not going to use the pills this time around. I'm going to go back to the marijuana. I'm going to go back to the DAP pens, the vapes. And then what can you describe what happened after that? Did he have other rounds of CHS, or what happened?
Sergio kicked him out of the house.
Well, he was not only not, it's so, the problem with cannabis, there's a bigger picture. There's always a bigger picture. I'm speaking for my child. He couldn't go to school because he was high. He couldn't keep a job because he was high. He needed to keep being high, so he had
to his level.
So he had to sell drugs, which I was, of course, against everything at all times. So now he's selling drugs. He's moving drugs around backpacks, and kids coming in and kids coming out. Kids were never allowed to come to the house. They didn't listen. He wouldn't listen because he's grounded. They don't listen. He would sneak out a window. He would find any way to get out or do whatever. The house smelled like marijuana all the time. I was so upsetting. You come home from an honest day of work, and you go through your nice, clean house, and marijuana is in the air. And
mind you, we have a daughter who suffers from asthma. So that alone would, like,
till this day, if she's our 13-year-old, which she turned 14 a couple weeks ago, till this day, if she smells marijuana, she panics a little bit. She's traumatized because of that, and bringing back all the bad memories that we had of the arguments of, I never raised my hand at him. I had to do, the way I coped, I had to read. I had to find something. And it's hard. It's hard to deal with it with your spouse, because you're having trouble dealing with it, much less dealing it with your spouse. She's always been more of an enabler. Not blaming her on anything negative, but I would walk, he would get in my face, and I would walk away, and I'd go read. I had to deal with something. So that took me to a place to where I found some kind of piece of where I didn't explode. If the conversation was going that way negative, I would walk away. I would turn a cheek. I wasn't enabling him, I don't think. I was trying to find a way to not make the problem bigger. And at the very end, where he's in bed for a week, throwing up 24/7 with chest pains. So he's in and out of the hot water tubs all day, every day, a week, 2 weeks. There was times that I just go sit next to him, and it takes me to a dark time because his room was always dark because the light, he don't want no lights on. It bothers him. The sunlight bothers. So it was a dark bedroom. I would just sit next to him, and he would ask me, "Dad, can you just sit here with me?"
Can you hug me? Can you hold me, Dad?
And I would just sit there, and I couldn't even say anything anymore. I didn't know what to tell him anymore. I thought I'd tell him. I've told him everything that I could possibly tell him. Repetitive, and I just felt like he was on his last days. I would just, look down into the floor and just, like, I don't know what to tell you, son. I would tell him, son, I don't know what to tell you anymore. You're in God's hands. I don't know what to tell you.
It was a dark time for our family. It was difficult dealing with that because we didn't know what was next. I mean, and for his sisters, he was it. He was like Sergio. The day Sergio kicked him out of the house, he had to do it when me and the girls were not home. He said, you can't be here. You wanna continue this lifestyle, you gotta go.
He had a backpack full of marijuana. And that was my moment to push him out of the house. And as kids, they're just waiting for you to tell them things like that so they can grab their stuff and go. It might be okay for that evening, but there's more evenings after that they have to go through. He had hit rock bottom at that moment when he left. He was really sick. And we did take him back.
He called us 2 days later. And
2 days later.
he said, can you come get me and take me to the hospital? And we took to the hospital. Sergio's like, you got to take him. I can't. So I took him and we came back home. He told, there was moments where I was like, oh. He's like, Mom, what are we gonna do? And I said, I can't do nothing, son. I can't do nothing for you. So we got home and he was like, Mom, do you think Dad would be okay if I go back to rehab? And I said, you gotta do what you gotta do. So we got home and he asked Sergio, Dad, what do you think if I go back to rehab? And Sergio's like,
let's go.
And so we called and they told us, you gotta wait for the call in the morning. And he was sick. He was so sick, so all night he was sick. He's like, Mom, have they called? I said, no, we haven't gotten the call. Sergio went to work, and as soon as I got the call that, hey, he's cleared to come, Sergio's like, okay, we're going. He was like, stop at a hotel. I gotta get in hot water. I'm in pain. And Sergio's like, we're not stopping. We're going. We took a 6-hour drive without stopping to take him to rehab.
The whole time he was in pain. There was no hot water in the vehicle, of course.
We bought a heating pad and he had 2 heating pads on him.
And was throwing up the whole time in the vehicle. Of course,
We had
with the baggies,
bags.
hospital bags that we collected so many visits, the little blue bags.
And, so we get to rehab and he thought he was going to feel some relief. And he was like, 2 weeks later, they called us and they said he may leave because he's not feeling any better. And they had already taken him to the hospital 2 times from rehab. And he was like, I don't want to be here. I'm in pain. He was frustrated. He was mad. And they told him at the rehab.
He almost quit again.
And they told him, if you leave, there's no turning back. You can't come back. And
Was that his last? That was his last, right? Rehab. And like the next day,
they called us and they told
that
us
he's doing better.
He decided to stay. He's stabilized, but still not feeling well. But he decided to stay. And this one lasted the longest. The last episode lasted the longest. It lasted 3.5 weeks.
He was tired of being tired.
He was tired.
He was tired. You could see it in his face. Well, yeah, he was tired of being. He was tired. He was exhausted of being sick. And I think he just, finally left it in God's hands. And
I think that that last time, the doctor went in and told him, listen, I want you to tell me how you want to die. And he looked at the doctor. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, I want you to tell me how you want to die. You want to die by radiation? You want to die by smoking weed? Or do you want to die by using another drug? And he just looked at the doctor and he's like, you're killing yourself, but you just got to tell us how you want to die and take it. That's it. This is the end of it. It was the first time a doctor had talked to him like that.
yeah, we took him over 30 times to the hospital. We knew what we were going in. We knew what was going to happen. And we just couldn't help him anymore other than just take him to the hospital. Because, even their friends don't take him to the hospital.
There's no friends there. There was nothing. There was nobody there.
Yeah. It's amazing that we are having this conversation and you are describing your son dying. And they say it's just pot. What's the problem? It's unbelievable that we are at this. I mean, it's unbelievable what your family has experienced, what happened to your son. I remember those days. Gladys was contacting me even on the way down to the rehab center and then letting me know that Sergio wanted to quit and stuff. And I remember Gladys, you saying something to me I think he said this to both of you, that he was ready for rehab because he didn't want to die.
I think he felt that there's no more chances after that. I think he felt it. He felt different. And here we are. But cannabis takes them down a rabbit hole. So
one thing led to another for him. And I'm pretty sure for many, and
and he did many drugs. He, when they write out, when they confess of all the drugs at Cornerstone, he was drugs that I never heard of. He mentioned acid. I didn't even know you could is that still out there?
Oh yeah.
And I was shocked of when he told us all the drugs. And I'm sure he took them because of cannabis, under the influence.
Yeah.
it took him to a whole different level. And not everybody can handle, not every human body can handle. And he was really close to not being here with us, I feel. I felt it in my heart at the time.
I remember seeing him. It was before the last round where he was starting to get better again, but he was skin and bones. I remember seeing him and going up and hugging him, and he just felt like a feather. Like he just felt like Sergio Jr. was like, he was like halfway gone, you know. It broke my heart. And he stayed at this last rehab. He got through, he started feeling better. He started to stabilize. None of it was easy. That rehab center held a strong line with him. And that is hard on everybody's part, your heartstrings. I mean, I can't imagine the pain. I'm just hearing all of this over the phone and knowing what's going on down there and just praying to God, let him stay, let him stay, let him get better. And he did. This time around, he did get better. And he finished the program. And then what did he decide when he got out of rehab, what he was going to do?
So, and before his release, they told him, you know, if you go back home, you're going to go back to the same thing. You know, of course, they do all this recommendations. And so they told him, you know, we recommend you go to a sober living far away from home. And at first I was like, you know, we were like, financially, how are we going to do? Is he going to want to do this? And Sergio's like, don't worry about it. We get to the part whenever, you know, first thing is, does he want to do it? And how long is he going to do this for? Because, you know, we've been down this road. This was our third or fourth time he had gone to rehab. And we're like, okay, well, is he even going to sober living? How long is this going to last? And he was like, oh, I'm going to go for a couple of months and I'll get better and I'll come back home. And, you know, so Sergio's like, just let him, you know, pay the first month. We flew him, you know, and we were like, because the plane made a stop here in Houston. And we were like, oh my God, is he going to get off the plane? He's going to call one of his buddies. And Sergio was like, let him, whatever he does, it's on him. It's not on us. We've done what we can to help him. And he called and he's like, I'm at the airport. Good. I'm boarding the plane to leave to San Antonio. They're picking me up over there. So once he was in San Antonio, he texted again, I'm in San Antonio. I'm good. I'm going to the sober living place. They picked him up. 6 months rolls around and you know, because he had told us max 6 months. And I said, he didn't say anything. We didn't tell him anything. And he calls us one night and he's like, just want to let you guys know that I'm doing good. And I have no plans to come home. So we're like, okay, you know, and here we are almost 2 years later. He started working at a restaurant over there. He is working at a rehab facility, and he's also managing a sober living home.
As we speak.
We are blessed to be here. We are blessed, beyond blessed, that he's still with us.
And to see him change his life around.
And thrive. You know, he has told us a few times that this is his calling, that he enjoys helping others. We've heard him talk to a few people about his journey, people that he's trying to help, you know, or that are going through the same thing that he has. He's actually gone back to origins and he has done, or he's been a speaker at Origins regarding his journey.
And he's had hard moments there. He has lost new friends that he's made in his way there. It saddens us for that person and their parents and their family.
But it's also frightening for us, you know.
Yeah, because he's in the realm of
He's always told us, I'm okay right now. Today I'm today. I don't know about tomorrow, but today I'm good. I'm sober, and we've met, or we've met actually by like FaceTime, his sponsor, and some of his friends that he mingles with and has built new relationships with, people that are sober and that are in his same journey.
Well, what a miracle. What a journey. Oh my gosh.
It's been it hasn't been an easy road, but I think everybody that he's crossed paths with in the past 5 years has played a part in his recovery.
Well, if he's listening to this podcast right now, I just want to say, Sergio, I'm so glad you chose to take care of yourself. And I have a lot of tears because I love you and your family. And I watched you guys struggle, and I was powerless over it. And you're a shining example. You're an inspiration to a lot of families. So I hope a lot of families listen to this and do whatever they can do to survive it. And there's definitely no right or wrong answers along the way. There's just like, what are we going to do today? And it sounds like Sergio's still doing that, and he's thriving. And I'm just really proud of him. And I'm really proud of you both sharing this, because it's not easy to relive this too, especially. And so you give hope to other families. So thank you for that.
yeah.
And
There's hope.
There's hope, and
There's hope.
I say never give up. Never give up that hope. It's not easy. It's not easy.
I wish one day there could be more information. I think more information, it will save lives.
Well,
Just information. There's no information. There's, celebrity
is hidden.
tabloids.
Everything is hidden under the rugs.
There's things that don't matter.
yeah, we need education campaigns, public education campaigns. We need, at Every Brain Matters, we have the information on CHS, Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Syndrome. So send me a message at info@everybrainmatters.org. I'll be happy to come talk to your community, your group, and educate you. Gladys and Sergio might want to come along with me and share too. Like we can do this as a team. We can do this and raise a lot of awareness on how addictive and toxic marijuana products are. I call them industrialized THC now, and how the disease of addiction can start with alcohol or cannabis, but it can lead to other substances that progress the disease faster. So I'm very proud of you guys. I just want to notice the shirts that they're wearing. They're Houston Pride shirts here with the Buckies in the Houston. That's an Astros shirt, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Houston strong, and know that there's hope. And if we don't want to, what we do at Every Brain Matters is we share the treatment resources that families have had success with. So the last rehab we will share that Sergio Jr. went to was Origins, and that's in Padre, right? Padre, Texas.
Padre.
Junior did fill at Origins, there were older people.
Yeah.
He was
It's,
always the youngest one there. He was always the youngest.
Yeah.
And that made that clicked with his brain a little more. Maybe where he got a little respect more than, you know, other places where there's younger people. Every facility is different for every person and their stage of drug addiction. But that's one thing that he did say.
He felt respected. He felt acknowledged. He felt like he was not a joke.
He felt like people really wanted help. There weren't, you know, younger people that they weren't serious, you know, yet or serious. So it makes sense.
Yeah. I've had other success stories. They have a good staff there. And I've been impressed with them. I know you guys know my younger son, James. He's driven other kids or young adults there. And they've had a very good experience. And
they like to listen to the beach, the
yeah.
wave,
yes.
the wave through the windows, you know.
That's healing, right? Being close to the ocean, that beauty, that's healing. And you know, we need to all do that. Tell me, how are the relationships now, especially between the siblings?
They love to see their brother I think we've seen him maybe once
every 2-3
months, and they love it. He doesn't call us as often as I would like, but I call him every day.
He don't need to call me every day.
But
we have a relationship.
Yes.
We have a relationship. His conversation with you is much different. It's he's very central minded in what he wants, what he's doing, what he wants to do, what's not good for him. But his conversation is completely different, which makes me more proud of him.
Seeing his face, you can see him glow like
he's healthy. He's healthy.
We hadn't had that in a long time, and it feels so good to see him glow from his health. You know, it's and when we've had the opportunity to listen to him a couple of times, talking to other people that are seeking help, it makes us proud that we didn't abandon him. We didn't let go of him in this journey. It like I said, it has not, and it was never easy. There was a lot of tears. There was a lot of arguments.
Sleepless nights.
But I'm glad we're here, and we pushed him, and I'm happy my husband did what he did, pushed him out of the house to his uncomfortable zone, to where it made him be where he's at right now. I don't think he would be there if we wouldn't have pushed him to that uncomfort zone.
That's a good point, and that's a hard decision for a family to make. And there's a lot of shame parents feel whether to make that decision or not make that decision. And I always say to other family members, if a family comes to the point where they say, "Sorry, son, you've got to leave now," they don't come to that decision lightly. They don't come to that decision in one day. You know, there's been many avenues that they have tried before they get to that point. And each family needs to make their own decision in their own time, in their own way. And all I can say is that a lot of families out there suffering. We just need to love and support each other, pray for each other, give a lot to God and keep raising awareness like we have today. I've been wanting to speak to you guys for quite a long time. I've had some bumps in my road and my journey too, and it's just, I'm so glad we've met tonight, and I'd like to, hang out with you guys sometime, since I'm kind of your neighbor now again.
I personally want to thank you for everything that you've done for our family. We met a few years ago, and I knew you were a nice person, a kind person. If you could help the world on your time, schedule, you would help the world. I didn't talk much to you. It was usually Gladys. Sometimes it just works like that. But I always had an admiration and appreciation for what you're doing, because that is a full-time job, what you're doing. And we pray for your son that he does continue to do well, and your relationship with you and him and your family are always going to, you will always do well. It's hard on the family. It's really hard. Not everybody wants the same that we want for them.
Yeah.
Kindness doesn't always get.
And not everybody understands addiction until you live it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of the times we are shamed, and because it is not out there, we tend to hide addiction because we don't want anybody to know. We don't want to be judged. But unfortunately, we've seen that addiction is a much bigger problem than.
Can I add something, Aubrey?
Yes, absolutely.
It might be a little bit off topic,
Sure.
but I've mentioned it to my wife, and I believe at Cornerstone, but I didn't say it with the same passion. This is something that I have observed in my lifetime, and I didn't know how strong it was, but I don't know, it may be not useful information, or it may be useful information, but my grandmother, the mother of my father, she always had a son living with him. And she would give her last dollar for him to buy alcohol. So I personally witnessed the love of a mother, so much love of a mother, that she took them to their death. They died of kidney failure because of alcohol. She loved them so much. And I have a wife, and she's a mother, and I see that mother love, unconditional love.
Sometimes we enable our kids.
But I saw that. I didn't understand that till a couple years ago or so, of what my grandmother did. She didn't do it on purpose.
Right.
She just enabled them. She would get her check. She would give them money. They'd be drunk. She'd take off their boots, tuck them in bed. And she was a 70-year-plus old woman. And these men were grown men that were addicts. And it's just so powerful.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe the power of a woman, of a mother with their children, of how far it can go.
Yeah.
Of the enabling.
Yeah. But thank you for sharing that. And thank you for your kind words with me too. And I mean, you know, we can love him to death, right? We can love
Yeah.
him to death.
Yep.
And or
Yep.
we can start making changes. I mean, you guys got to the point in your home where you're like, yeah, we're not having this in our home anymore. You know, and thank God Sergio has a mom and dad, because there's a lot of single parents out there. But it's so true. Those lines, I mean, like that's the way they were raised, and some of those moms they're just
You love to death.
yeah,
And
they're
you don't want to see him out in the street. You're like, oh, I'd rather him be home because I don't want to find him in the street. I don't want to see him sleeping in the street. I don't want him to be killed. But you don't realize that by doing that, sometimes you're killing your own child.
yeah.
You are, the enablement is so bad that you're like, by allowing that behavior, you're killing them.
Yeah.
And it hurt me to kick Junior out. And Cornerstone always spoke about that. You know,
Yeah.
you got to kick them out. And me and Gladys would look at each other like, I'm not doing that to my son, you know, at the beginning. And we're like, we're Mexican. We don't do that. You know, we don't kick kids and we bring them in, you know, they can live with us all they want. But
when Sergio did it, I was like so mad, and I was like, why did you do that? And where is he gonna sleep? And what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to? Because he took his phone. He's like, we paid for the phone. You've got to give over the phone. And I was like, how am I supposed to know where he's at? What am I gonna do? And Sergio's like, let him figure it out.
And I didn't even raise my voice at him.
2 days later, he figured out how to contact us.
Yeah, I didn't raise my voice at him. But like I said, I did a lot of reading, a lot of online reading of how to deal with the, you know, and then that kind of calmed me down, gave me some, and I'm not a reader. I don't read books, but it gave me so much information, and it helped. It helped a lot for me, because I really wanted to beat him up.
Yeah.
You know, we had 2 times sheriff's department would come. We would call them because Junior was out of control. And once a male and once a female, different occasions, sheriff's department, Harris County. I remember her saying, how come you don't kick his ass? And I was like, I'm not teaching my girls, I'm not showing them this is the way we're gonna live. And they would just look at me like, you know, maybe I was crazy, but I couldn't do that. I couldn't show my daughters I'm more stronger than my son. Yeah, he'll probably give me a black eye, but I'm stronger. And I couldn't do that in front of my girls. The trauma that was gonna come after that.
As it was, we were already going through enough.
Yeah. I think that's a very key point, that, you know, if it got physical, you were just going to cause more trauma to your girls. And I was in the same situation. The summer of 2015, I think the police were at my house 25 times. It was hell for us. And a lot of stuff happened. And I remember not all the police officers, but some of them said, Mom, you know, because my husband was starting to check out. He was just in too much pain. He was self-medicating himself. I didn't know it at the time, but he was using cannabis. And the one police officer said to me, Mom, you know, you can use some physical altercations with him, just don't leave a bruise. That's what they would tell me.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I was so desperate. I remember I physically tried to prevent my son from leaving one time. It didn't go good. I can't, he was stronger than me. And I'm a pretty strong woman, but you know.
Yeah. You can't, under the influence, they're too powerful. They're a different person.
I did that. I would, you're not going nowhere. And he was like, yes, I am.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and mind you, I mean, even I can honestly say he was not disrespectful to other people. Never. Even when he was under the influence, he was never disrespectful. But to us, he was like, I'm leaving because I want to leave. I don't want to be here. And he was verbally abusive.
Mhm.
Yes,
Very.
very verbally abusive with everybody.
But he wouldn't do it to his sisters.
No, not to the not to the little sisters. No.
He would not do it to his sisters.
Because at that time they were like 6 and 8, 6 and 9.
Yeah. It's like, we call this a family disease, and it is. It's a family disease, especially when you described your grandmother and how she would enable her son's alcoholism. 2 of them. Yeah. And, and so those are all really good points, because to any families out there listening, like, really, at the end of the day, this disease is relentless. We can't control the outcome. The Longoria families so far had a good outcome. As one of our counselors says, Joe, some of us are further down the road, but we're just all as close to the ditch. This disease can raise its ugly head at any time.
And we're still on the road.
And we're still on the road. It doesn't end. Once it starts, there's no end to it. It's for the rest of your life, right? I mean, your son's going to work a recovery program for the rest of his life. You guys have learned a lot. You know how to play your part in all this. And now, but like, you described in the beginning, there was no book, there was no anything. So you searched the internet, you started reading other books and found your way of how to interact with him and where to let go, where to hold a strong line. And it changes on a daily basis. That's why it's good to talk about this and find the support and the connections. So the Every Brain Matters community has a meeting every Wednesday evening where families can come and have these hard discussions, not be judged, be allowed to choose whatever you want to choose, and just really have these honest, hard conversations of what to do. What's the next move? What is the action we're going to take, especially when, the disease has pretty much taken over. So these types of conversations are valuable, especially in today's age.
Yes. Thank you, Aubrey.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you for your support. I love you guys. And thank you for doing this tonight. Thank you for listening to the Every Brain Matters podcast. It's just pot. What's the problem? We need your support. Please like, share this video or podcast, and leave us a comment or a review. The Every Brain Matters community is a nonprofit developed by families harmed by today's industrialized marijuana. To support our efforts, please give us a donation. The link is in the description of this video or podcast, or visit our website at everybrainmatters.org.